Flutter Wave integration. That's what we're going to be doing in this part of the video. And in doing that, we're going to build something like an actual application. And in this case, this is just going to be a donation application, as you can see. And so the application is just going to need a full name, and it's going to need an email, phone number, and then amount. So let's fill this form and see how the application works. So full name is Black Diamond, and email is black@test.com, and the phone number, let's make up one. So let's choose this. And for the amount, let's go ahead and make use of a 400, and we'll click on donate, and that's really going to start off the payment process from there. Okay, so it's trying to load up the payment page, and it has loaded. And yeah, so that is just how it works. Then what we need right now is that we do have a couple of payment channels here, but by default the one that we have is card. Okay, so we just basically need that. And if you look at the top here, we have donate, which is the title that we set within the coding environment, and then the amount that we just typed, and even the email address that we just typed now that we filled the form. So we're going to just basically need to fill the form, and even we're going to fill the card details, fill in the card details, and then we can click on proceed. And these are the payment channels that are available, but the one that is automatically set to take place now is card, but you can make use of anyone like bank transfer. Okay, but I'm going to just basically make use of this particular one, which is card. And I'm still on the test mode, so I'm going to use testing data or test cards from Flutter Wave. And in doing that, you need to just go to this page, which is developer.flutterwave /docs/test cards, and you will find all of these cards that are here. The first one is MasterCard, and the second one is just for Visa. So you can find any one that you like within this page, and then make use of it to do your testing. So let's say that I'm going to use a Visa for my testing right now. So I'll copy the card and paste it against the card number, and then for the the expiry date, it's just 093. So I'm going to just go ahead and put it right there, which is 0932, I believe. And for the the CVV, that is just the same all through, that's going to be 564. And the next one is just click on pay 400 naira, and that is going to attempt to take us to this page, and we just need to click on proceed. And if you click on that proceed right now, it's going to attempt to open a page where we need to type in something like an OTP from our bank. So that's just basically what that is going to do. And as you can see, the page has been opened, and we can find the test data, I mean the OTP, from this page. Okay, so the OTP that we're going to use now, we're going to just have to pick it from that page. That should be 1225. Okay, and or is it Alright, so without wasting much time, let's just kind of go ahead and then put that card number right there. Okay, and if we put that, this is going to really, the payment is going to proceed from there. So let's go ahead and put the card, the OTP right here, if you were using if it was live, they can send you, your bank can send you that OTP. Okay, but we're going to make use of the one that they gave us as the testing data, since we're still on test mode. So it's going to be 1 to 5, and I'll click on submit. And if you click on submit, that payment is going to be authorized, and automatically it's going to generate this unique verification page for you, where you have your full name. As you can see, that is what we type, Black Diamond. Have a phone number right there, email, the transaction status, the reference, the transaction ID, and then the amount, and then the amount charged. So this is basically the page that is going to be generated automatically after the verification of the authenticity of the payment that I just went through. So you're going to just have to kind of be presented with this page, and this page really does not open if you don't have a genuine details in place. So I did a verification here. The page only opens if the details that I requested were really correct, and you can click on that download button to download whatever product, so you can place your product directly in that place. So that's just a page that I'm going to be using to give value. Okay, and if you think that you're smart enough, maybe you did not pay and you want to come and forge something like a transaction ID, let's put 7 right there in place of 3, and let's try to open this page, and you see what is going to happen now. You see, automatically gets redirected to the home page, where you have to, it will force you to make payment again. Okay, so it's really will not open unless that particular transaction ID exists. So if you put the 3 that was there back, it will open again. That's just basically how I said that. And if you think you are really smarter to take away this particular transaction ID, it's still going to kind of refer you to the home page to make payment. Okay, so that's really a very powerful thing right there. And not only that, I also make use of the the status. As you can see, the status is set to successful right here. But if it was something else, let's say it's not set to successful, if it was something like failure, something like incomplete or error, just write about any other thing that is not successful, okay, you will have a problem. So it's still not going to open this page up for you. It will still have to redirect you to the home page, where you have to make the proper payment, and then the status must have to be set to successful before that can really take place. So you see, it redirects. If you put anything that is not successful there, it redirects. All right, so that is just basically what that is. And yeah, it's really quite a very nice application that is really good for, maybe let's say, business. If you have products that you want to sell, this kind of application is what is going to help you to already go ahead and then sell something within this page. So if, let's say, we perform another transaction right now, you're going to see how this page is still going to be updated. So you see the table right here, which is Black Diamond, and with that particular phone number that you see right there, will be updated to whatever new transaction that you make. Okay, so let's give it a try. Let's give it a shot to make another payment, just to see whether that is going to open. So let's say this time around this is going to be white, and let's say white Kevin right here, and let's say that the email address is going to be Kevin at test.com. And for the phone number, we'll make up a phone number here again, and that is the phone number. And after that, the amount is going to be 1,000. Let's just pay 1,000 naira, and we'll hit donate. And if that really works fine, it's going to take us to the payment page again, where we'll have to still fill in the test data that we really need. So let's make use of the MasterCard this time around. So if we copy the MasterCard number and place it right here, and as for the expiration date. That's going to be the same thing, 09/32, and we'll put the CVV, which is that was 564 for the CVV. Okay, and yeah, so this one is for the PIN and this is for the OTP. Alright, so if we go ahead and click on pay 1000 naira right now, it's going to open up this page where we need to put the 4-digit card, which I've already shown you, and that is this one, 3310. So let's put it right there, and it is going to automatically try to move us to the authorization page. And of course we need to put the OTP, which is 125, and we'll click on authorize payment, and that is going to attempt to authorize that payment. So it's going to generate this page again, and this time around this is white Kelvin, and the phone number, email, the status of the payment, the reference, the transaction ID, and the amount, and then the amount charged. So you see how dynamic that works. That really changed. So to another, it's updated to new information right now. So that's just right about how powerful the application is. So at being you are a buyer, you can just, once you get verified, you can click on that download button and you would get your product downloaded successfully to your device, and you enjoy yourself. So that is just what it is. And I think that the next thing that we need to do right now is to maybe check our email, or even we can even, let's check either our email or the Flutterwave dashboard to see whether this payment really came through or not. So I think that's the next thing that we're going to do right now. Okay, we can check only our email and forget about checking it on Flutterwave, but I think it's also necessary for us to check it on Flutterwave. So I'm going to log into my Flutterwave account right now and see what's going to happen right there. Okay, so I'm trying to log in. I'm still trying to log into my Flutterwave account. Okay, it's taking time. My internet is not fast right here, but definitely it's gonna open. Alright, so I'm successfully logged into my account right now. My, what is it called? My Flutterwave account right now.
Transactions. So I'm going to click on transactions, and if that page opens, we're going to see the transactions. So I'm going to click on transactions, and if that page opens, we're going to see the two payments that we just made now, kv@test.com, and then a payment also from black@test.com. So these are the two payments I just went through right now. Okay, in fact, if you click on this first one right here to see the details of the transaction, you're going to notice that we have the transaction ID here. Right now it's ended with BA, and if you look at the one that we have on our verify page, it's also the same thing. Okay, so let's also look at the transaction ID to know whether it's the same thing. So let's go back to our dashboard and let's look for the transaction ID. Where is the transaction ID? I think that should be found if we scroll down. And you should be here with me. I'm just trying to find out where that is located, but it should be somewhere around. Okay, it should be somewhere around. Anyways, before we actually find out where that is, let's just also take a look at the details of the customer. You know, we typed white Kelvin, and if you look at this place, this is white Kelvin, and the next one is the phone number should also be the same thing if we had put it. Okay, we did not. Okay, we had put it that. See the phone number right here, and even the email address. So the transaction status, was it printed? I think yeah, the transaction status is here, which is successful, and we'll have the same thing right there. Okay, well, I'm just trying to figure out where the, what is it called, the transaction ID is located within this page. And if I can't find it, we just have to just let that be. I don't want to start bothering myself about looking for the transaction ID right now. So what I'm going to do right now is that I want you guys to understand that this particular thing right now, or this okay, you see they labeled this as transaction ID in this place. So this was called transaction ID instead of the transaction reference. Okay, so I was basically looking for this one. So this was what they had put there right there, the reference, and I'm looking for this. It should be somewhere within that place, but let's just don't bother ourselves looking for that right now. So the next thing that I want us to do right now is also take a look at the email that Flutterwave has sent us, and if we look at that, we should be able to have a copy of these properties that we have right here. So I'm going to go to my email right now, and as you can see, we performed the 2 transactions just now. So if we open this email, we should have those 2 transactions coming. And if we alright, so this one is just the payment of 400 naira, and I hope that this one belongs to someone like Black Diamond. As you can see the sender name is Black Diamond, and his email is right here, Black Diamond. And for the person that paid 1000 naira, let's also scroll down. We should be able to find the person right here, and as you can see, we have that right here. So this is the person that pays. This is 1000 naira as the amount, and the sender name is White Kevin, and the email is right here. Okay, so basically everything that you need will be sent to the owner's email, and Flutterwave also sends a copy of this email to the person that bought the product. Okay, I'm talking about Black as test. So if this email really exists, he or she is going to have a copy of this email sent to him. So that's just basically what I want to show you. Okay, so that is that. So let's go to the development environment now and build this together. So I'm going to close this out. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and create a folder for this project. So I just navigated to my htdocs. So you need to go to your local drive, XAMPP, and then within your htdocs, I want to go ahead and create a folder for the project that we want to work on right now. And I'm going to go ahead and call this let's go ahead and call this Flutterwave. Alright, so the project, the folder has been created. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up with the editor that I want to use, and I'm going to make use of Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to open that with code. Alright, we'll have that open right here. I'm going to close this. We have that folder right here, and if you look at it, it is completely empty. So what we're going to do right now is to create a couple of files that we're going to need in this page. So I'm going to need an index.php, and I'm also going to need another file which I'm going to call go ahead and call that let's call that verify.php, which is the file that we're going to use to verify the authenticity of the payment. And I'm going to need a folder, so I'll create a folder right here for my CSS. So I'll call that CSS, and within that CSS I'm going to go ahead and create a file within the CSS, which I'm going to just call style.css, which is going to hold our style. And yeah, so this is just basically right about the files and folders that we're going to need. So the first thing to work on right now will be the index. Alright, so within our index page, let's go ahead and create our HTML boilerplate, and I'm going to just go ahead and change this title right now. We're just going to call this a wave. Let's just say wave or Flutterwave integration. Let's say it's something like in PHP and coil, just like that. And within the body and down here, come on, let's go ahead and link to our CSS from here. So I'm going to just say link, well, and this is going to be style sheet, and href is going to be, I want to go ahead and set that to the folder first, followed by the file which is style.css, like that, and with that line we've really connected to our CSS. And the next thing that I would like to do right now is to go ahead. Oh, I think we made a mistake in spelling this and, so that should be a D right here. And after that, within this place, within the body, I'm going to just put a H1 right there, which I'm going to just call that a rave integration. So I'm going to go ahead and let's close that out right here, and then I want to demarcate that immediately with horizontal roller bar, and to get that is just HR. And then on the next thing that I would like to do right now is to go ahead and create a container. So I'm going to create a div right here. It's going to be div, and I'm going to give that a class of, let's go ahead and call this container, and then I'll go ahead and close the div somewhere down here. And within this div, what I'm going to do first of all is to go ahead and then create a form. And to do that, let's go ahead and just say form, FORM. I'm going to just say action, and let's go ahead and set the action to empty strings right there, which means that it's going to make use of the same page. And we're going to set the method. Let's set the method to post, because we're going to send everything that we need as a post method right here. And that is just that. I'm going to go ahead and close the form, FORM, to close the form tag. And by within the form, we can go ahead and start creating the inputs that we need. But the first thing that I would like to do right now is to go ahead and create a label first. So I'm going to just say label, and the first label that I want to create right now will be the full name. So this is going to be full name, and I'm going to go ahead and close the label right here. And underneath the label, I'm going to create the input, the first input. So this is going to be input type, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to text. So this is going to be text. And after the text, I'm going to create a name for the input field, and this is going to be just called, let's go ahead and call it name. And after the name, the next thing that we want to do right now is to create a placeholder. So this is going to be called a placeholder, and let the placeholder be equal to something like this. Let's say enter full name, just like that. And we can go ahead and close this out immediately, and let's go ahead and copy this and paste it maybe 2 more times, and paste that right here. And the second one, I'll also paste that. And I'm going to go ahead and change this one from, I think the next thing that we need to create now will be the email. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to email. So this is going to be email. And I also need to change the type from text to email. And I'm going to change the name to email. And then the placeholder will be enter your email. And then for the next one, this is going to be for the phone number, I believe. So I'm going to just say phone. Go ahead and change it. Maybe we should change the placeholder. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and change let's change the name first. So let this be equal to phone. So I'm going to just go ahead and call this phone. And as for the placeholder, we can just say enter your phone number, just like that. And then finally, we're going to need one more thing, and that is going to be the amount that the person wants to donate. So in this case, let's go ahead and change this to amount, and we're going to change name to amount, and then the placeholder can be something like enter amount, just like that. And yeah, and then the next thing, the last thing that we need to do right now is to provide a submit button for this. So I'm going to just say input, and I'm going to set the input type to be equal to submit. So I'm going to just say submit right here, and I'm going to give that a name. So let the name of this submit button be equal to, let's go ahead and call that let's call it donate. So this is going to be donate, and the value, which is the text that people are going to see, let's go ahead and call that donate. So this is going to be donate. Okay, and we can go ahead and then close this out right here, and we're going to go ahead and save this page, and let's go ahead and then take a look at that from our browser. So to access that from our browser, we're going to have to access that. So this is going to be localhost / and we call that a flutter wave. That's what we'll call that. So we're going to go ahead and access that right away. And so far, this is what we have. We have full name, we have email, we have phone number, and we have amount. Then we have donate. And that doesn't look beautiful, and that is because we haven't added any CSS yet. So let's go ahead and then add the CSS. And yeah, to add the CSS, we need to open the CSS folder, the file. And I don't want to waste much time in writing the CSS. So what I'm going to do right now is to just copy and paste the CSS, and I'll go over it. Okay. Alright, so I got the CSS copied, so I'm going to go ahead and paste that right here. And let's go over the CSS. So what I'm just basically doing right here is that I'm selecting the body right here, trying to change the background to navy, and the color of the text that will be appearing on that page will be white. And you remember the container that I created? I'm talking about this container right here, this container that I called container. This class that I called container. So that is just what I'm trying to style right here. Okay, so I just give it a width of 50%, margin to be auto. And then the H1 text that is inside of that place is just we're gonna just center the text, then set the font size to the 3em, and then after that I went ahead to style the form. Okay, so that is just what that is. So the styles, the style beginning from this place down to this place is just for the form. Okay, so this is just for the form. And I'm gonna add quite a couple of CSS later, but I just wanted to just show you this. From this place down, it's for just the form, alright. And if you scroll up a bit, it's just for some other things. So it's not too much. You can just go ahead and then type it right now, so that we'll be on the same page. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. And if I go back to the browser and refresh that page, I should have the CSS applied to it, and that doesn't show. So we'll probably have to clear the cache. And this is how it looks like, but I think that a couple of things are just are going wrong right here. Let's go ahead and refresh this page again, and it still looks the same way. So we'll take a look at it from the CSS and see what is wrong with it right now. So we have, and that something is wrong really with the form, so we have to look at the form. We have this right here. Have label. So those problems, we're having that with the labels, not the input but label. And I think that the style for the label is good. So let's take a look at our HTML again. Oh. Alright, see, we misspelled label right here, the closing tag for label. So that's probably where the problem is coming from. So let's go ahead and correct that by putting an L right here. And I think I did it for all of them. So we should also put L here, and in this place we should also put an L here, and finally we should also put an L here. So let's go ahead and save this page right now. And if we go back to our browser and refresh, and everything now comes back to normal. Okay, so the problem was just coming from our inability to just close the labels. The label tag did not really match, so that's why we're having that issue. Alright, so that's just how I want the index of that page, this particular page, to look like right now. So the next thing that we're going to do right now is to start working on the server side part of it. Okay, so we're going to use PHP so that when somebody fills this form and click on donate, it's going to pick up the person's details and then try to make the transaction go through as we do that. Alright, so let's do that right away. So now that we're on this page, I want us to just go to the top of this page, and what we're going to do right now is to throw in our PHP tag right here. And I want to use this page to write the PHP. And I'm going to like putting this in a small letter, so this is going to be PHP. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do right now is to make sure that once someone fills this form, that we should be able to collect whatever the person typed in. And to do that is really very simple in PHP. So I'm going to use if statement right now, and I'm going to just say if is set, and I'm going to use the super global variable post to a test for the submit. So within this place right now, I'm going to just use the name that we gave to this submit button, remember that we gave it a name of donate. So I'm going to just copy that name right here and then put it in this place. So this is going to be donate, and within this place right now, this is where we're going to start gathering the data. But before we do that, we want to be sure that this was really called donate, or that anytime somebody clicks on this, you should be able to see something. So I'm going to just say echo, let's say something like submitted, something like that. And if I save that, and if I go to my page right now, let's refresh this page, and if you click on donate, we should be able to get the text submitted at the top. So that means that this page, this button is already being seen, and that means that it is possible that whatever you type within this place, we are going to gather them. Okay, so we're going to basically gather them within our form. So let's go back to our development environment, and I'm going to get rid of this. So the first thing that I would like right now is to collect the person's name. So whatever the person typed in, so I'm going to just say name, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to be equal to, so let's say I set it to this super global variable again, super $_post, and that is going to be put in this place. Remember that the name for the full name, this particular field is called name. So I'm going to pick that name right now and then put it right here, like that, and then we can go ahead and terminate this line if we want. Alright, so before we go ahead now to do anything else, I want to use a security function on this, so that if people try to harm us using some kind of a script like that, we can really kind of escape that. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to use a HTML special chars, and it's just basically a function. So I'm going to wrap it around this particular what is it called, this particular array. Okay, so I'm going to just do that, and we can go ahead and then copy this, paste it, and then edit. So the next one that we're going to be working on right now is going to be not the name this time around, but it's going to just be the email, I believe. So let's go ahead and change that from this to email. So I'm going to just say email, and of course the name for the email was called email. And then for the next one, that is going to be the phone number. So we're going to just change this from name to phone number. So it's going to be called phone _ number, and we're going to go ahead and change it from here to, what did we really call that? Let's check that from the phone number field. We will call it phone, so that's going to be just called phone. So I'm going to just call that phone right there, and then the next one is going to be I think the amount. So this is going to be amount, so I'm going to change this right now to amount, and I think we already called that amount. Okay, we have an amount right there. So this is basically the things that we need, and then within this place now, this is where we're going to go ahead and then start our integration. Alright, so before we go ahead and then to write the code that we're going to use to integrate this, let me just put a comment here and do something like integration. Let's say integrate wave payment. So we're going to do that from this place down. But before we do that, I think it will be necessary for us to open up the documentation page so that we can look at that together as we code. So I'm going to open up the documentation page right now. Alright, so I'm on a Flutterwave documentation page right now, and all I did was to just type developer.flutterwave.com/docs/flutterwave-standard. If you type that on your URL right now and press enter, you're going to land on this page. Okay, so that is just what that is, and I'm not going to take too much time in reading all of the things that are in this page. Okay, but the few things that we're going to need, I'm going to go through them. So the first thing that we need right now is to copy out this particular endpoint. This is the standard endpoint to all the payments that you can make on Flutterwave. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy this right now, and if we go back to our development environment, let's go ahead and create what is it called, a variable right there, which I'm going to just go ahead and call endpoint. So let's just call this endpoint, we're going to put that in double quotation or single quotation. So go ahead and paste the Flutterwave version 3 endpoint right there. Okay, so if we go back to the documentation page right now, so if you are on the Flutterwave page right now with me, we need just a couple of things, and those are the things that we need is this. We're going to need this text ref, which is going to be the transaction reference that must be unique every time a payment is being completed. Okay, we're going to need this. We're going to find a way to be generating this automatically, and then we're going to also need an amount, and we need a currency. We're going to set this currency, and another thing that we'll need is going to be we're also going to need to build a customer according to what we are doing right here. We're going to have to build a customer, and yeah, so we also need we could also touch the meta a little bit, which is just additional information that you can add to your integration. And we're also going to need these customizations, which is really where you have to put the logo, the title, and even the description of your website. Okay, so that's just what that is. All right, so the thing right now is that let's just see how we're going to kind of gather this together. All right, so you can, this is just the requested object that one can use. If you want to use that, you can copy that, but I'm going to just do my own. I create my own from scratch. So the first thing that we need right now is going to be to go ahead and then kind of create the post data that we're going to need. Alright, so if we go back to our development environment now, what we're going to do now is that we're going to look for a way, maybe to build this as an array. We're going to see how is it we're going to gather the things that we need from this place and then place them within our page. Let's go back to our development environment and let's do that down here. So what I'm going to do right now is that we're going to need a few data right now. So let me just put a comment here, call that, let me just go ahead and say required data. Okay, and then to put those required data, I'm going to just go ahead and put that in a variable. So I'm going to just call that a post data, and I'm going to put that, this is going to be an array. So I'm going to create an array, and I'll terminate this line, but within this array, this is where I'm going to build all other things that I need right now. And according to what I've shown you in this documentation page, we're going to need this, which is the reference key that is going to be generated automatically anytime we want to make payments. So I'm going to put that within that quotation, and we're going to go ahead and set that to be equal to we could go ahead and do a kind of maybe in strings like this. We can go ahead and maybe mix characters like this. But what happens is that anytime we make use of this particular one to make payment, it's going to need us to come back and then change these characters again before we can really make another payment. But we don't have to be manually doing that. In fact, there is a function in PHP that we can use to automatically generate this, and that function is really called I think it's called a unique ID. So that is this function. So we can just say something like a unique ID, and it's a function that we can use. In fact, if you want to see this right now, let's go to the top of this page, and let's say echo. Let's go ahead and echo that unique ID. So if I go ahead and save this now and I go back to my development environment, if I refresh that page, I should be able to have that outputted for me. So let's go ahead and refresh this page right now, and we have an error right here. And if we look at that, the error says unexpected, a semicolon, expecting this on line 14. So let's go back to line 14, and this is line 14. Okay, we don't need a semicolon here, we need just a comma right there. So let's save this, and remember that what I'm just trying to show you is the unique character that this is going to display. Okay, so if we go back and then refresh again, and now we have those unique characters right here. If I refresh again, it's going to still change. You see that? If I refresh again, it's also going to still change. Just be looking at this is B right now. If I refresh again, that changes to 3, and if I refresh again, that changes to D. So it just keeps changing like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using to be generating, automatically generating the text reference. All right, so I'm talking about this place right here. So I'm going to comment this line out, and that is just that. So if you want that to be longer than it is right now, you can just concatenate onto the same function again. You can just say unique ID, just like that, and that's going to help you kind of generate that, and it will be long enough. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to need right now is to go ahead and set the currency. So let's say currency, and I'm going to go ahead and set the currency to be equal to NGN. So this is going to be NGN, and I'm using NGN because I'm making use of my Nigerian account. But if you're in Kenya, Ghana, and then any other country, you can make use of your own currency initial right here. So for instance, if you're in the United States, you can just use USD like this. But I'm in Nigeria right now, so I'm going to just go ahead and leave that at NGN for Naira. So the next thing that I'm going to set right now is going to be the amount. And to set the amount, I'm going to go ahead and do that right here. So this is going to be amount, and I'm going to go ahead and set the amount to be equal to, this time around, I'm not going to just set that to a specific amount like 100 or 1000 naira. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and make use of this variable that is up here. And with this particular variable, what it means is that anybody can pay the particular amount, any particular amount that he wants to pay. That way I'm not restricting people to donate a certain amount, because if I leave that at 1000, that means I'm pushing everybody to pay 1000 naira. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and then put the variable right here, so that anytime the person types, even if it is 100 naira that he types here or 500, it's going to automatically get imputed into this place. So I'm going to put that right here, that variable right there. And the next thing that I need right now is to go ahead and build my customer. And to build my customer is very, very simple. The first thing that I need now is a holder called a customer. So I'm just going to say customer, and within this customer right now, the first thing that I need to do is to use an arrow right like this, and I'm going to build out my customer as an array. So I'm going to create another array right here, and within this particular array, I'm going to go ahead and build the things that I need. Like I need a name, and I'm going to need an email and a phone number within the customer. And to do that is really very simple. I'm going to just first of all pick the name, and that is going to be set to the name variable that we have up here. So I'm going to just go ahead and put name as the name variable, comma, and the next thing that I need is going to be the email. So I'm going to just say email, and I'm going to go ahead and put the variable that represents the email. And I'm doing I hope you guys understand why I'm using all this. Okay, the emails are just going to be coming in dynamically. These things that I'm building right now, they are coming in dynamically. That's why I'm using their emails. Okay, so on the next line, this is going to be, and I made a mistake here, this should be in quotes. Okay, I should quote this. It should be in quotes. Then on the next line, I think that what I need right now is going to be the email, and the email is good. Not the email. Sorry about that. Not the email, but the phone number. So I'm going to just say phone underscore number, and this is going to be equal to the phone number variable that we have up there. So this is going to be just a phone number, like that. And the last thing does not really need a comma, so I'm not going to put a comma there. Rather, I'm going to put a comma right here. Okay, and we'll move ahead to the next one, which is still going to be an array. So this time around, this one is going to be an array of the customization. I'm going to customize this a little bit. To do that, let me just copy this particular array and paste it down here. And this is not going to be customer, rather what this is going to be called is customization. This is going to be called a customization. Customizations, like that. Remember, look at how I spelled it. This is customizations, and this is just an array, so I'm not going to need all of this right here. So what I'm going to need now is I'm going to need a title, and let the title be equal to, I'm going to set the static title right here. Let's say something like donate to the less privileged. Donate to the less privileged. And then the next thing that I'm going to need right now is going to be the description. So description right here, and let's say we describe this application. So we can go ahead and say something like let's say showing love to the needy. Okay, let's say something like a page for the collection of donation to the needy. That's like that. And the next thing that we could do is to go ahead and add what is it called, is to go ahead and add the logo right here. So we can come to this place and just say logo, and we'll go ahead and add the URL to our logo right here. But I don't want to do that in this video, but that is really very simple. You can just, in quotation right here, you just go ahead and add the path or the URL to the to what is it called, your logo, which you must have uploaded to Flutterwave before now. Okay, so but I'm going to just take that away. Hope you can do that by yourself. So I'm going to take out the last comma right here. Okay, alright, so I still need something else, and that's going to be for the metadata, in case we're ever going to need that. So I'm going to just to create the metadata right now. So this is going to be changed to meta, and from that we're going to have, let's say for the metadata, we want to add the reason why we are collecting this donation. So I'm going to just say something like reason, and within this place I want to statically set the reason for them. So we can say something like to help, maybe to help the poor, something of that nature. And you can also change this. Let's say the address, let's put the address of the person that is paying right here. So we can just say something like or the address where those people that needs help are staying. So we can go ahead and put it right here. We can do something like let's say to be UNN Road, Nsuka, just like that. And then let's just write about that. So I'm going to take away this last thing right here for the phone, and I'm still going to go ahead and take away that last comma, because I don't really need that right there. And finally, the last thing that I'm going to need right now is going to be to go ahead and create a kind of a redirect link after successful payment. And to do that, we are going to do that within the what we call Redress URL. Let me just take a look at that again from our documentation. So that's something that I'm looking for, and that is this. I'm looking for Redress URL. Okay, so I'm going to have to copy this, and if we go back to our development environment, I'm going to paste that right here, and we're going to go ahead and set that to the page that we would like the customer to be redirected to after they make the successful payment. Okay, so in my own case, I'm going to just go ahead and put them in the verified.php page that I created. And to put them to that place, I'm going to just say http localhost. This is going to be localhost / the folder name is Flutterwave, and followed by the verify.php. That's the page I want to take them to, and this is not going to need a semicolon, a comma at the end of the day. Okay, so just take a look at this data that I've just built now, and I think I have to just kind of look at it again. And this is just a variable, we say called it post data, and we set that in an array which started from here and it ended there. And within this array, we automatically generated a reference key, and we also created set our currency, default currency that we want to use, and we also set an amount which is coming from the form right here, and after that we went ahead to build our customer, which needs only name, email, and then phone number. And after that we went ahead to customize the payment page, which in our own case we have a title that is called the donate to less privileged, description, and after that we added a little metadata right here, which was all about the reason and then the address where those the less privileged people are staying. Okay, that's just what we did there. And finally we are just redirecting. If the payment goes through, which page do we want them to land? So in this case it's going to land on this page where we'll have to write the code that we're going to use to verify the authenticity of their payment before we offer them any value. That is just what we have done right there. Okay, so and then the next thing that we're going to do right now is to start writing the code for our coil, because we're going to use coil to connect to this particular payment processor, okay, which is called Wave or Flutter Wave integration at this moment. So let me just scroll up and then we can start the integration from here. So I'm going to just put a comment right here and say something like init cURL handler. Okay, and to initiate the cURL handler is really very simple. I'm going to just put that in a variable. It's going to be ch, and I'm going to set that to be equal to cURL underscore init, and that's just a function that we can use to kind of initiate our handler, or to start the coil session. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do right now is to go ahead and then set the endpoint which we have really created up here. This is the endpoint that we have really created. We're going to basically need this right now. Alright, so let's scroll down, and down here to set that particular URL that we created, or endpoint right there, we're going to have to put that in a function that we call as coil setup, which is basically a function that we can use to set configurations for a payment that we want to make right here. And to do that is really very simple. What I'm going to do right now is to, let me just put a comment here and just say set the endpoint, and to set it I'm going to just say cURL underscore setup, like that. That's the function, and within this place, this is where we're going to go ahead and then set the configuration right now. So the first parameter that I'm going to need is going to be this ch, that's the coil handler, and we're going to just, most of the time that's just the first parameter that we're going to need right now. So I'm going to take the ch, and the next thing that I want to do is the algorithm or the constant that is going to help me set this particular endpoint that we have up there. And the constant that we are going to need is going to be called a cURL pt, that is collect underscore URL, to set that particular URL. Okay, so I'm going to put a comma right there, and we'll go ahead and put the variable that contains the URL. In our own case, it was called endpoint, just like that. And that is just basically right that. And I'm going to copy that line because we're going to need we're going to still be modifying things within that particular function. Okay, so the next thing that I would like to set right now is to go ahead and turn on the post method. So I'm going to just say, put a comment right here and say something like turn on the cURL post method. And to do that, I'll paste the what I just copied, and we need this. This is the first parameter that we're going to need, and then we're going to also still need we're not going to need this constant completely. So the one that we need right now, instead of URL right here, I'm going to change that to post instead. So this is going to be called a post. And the third parameter that we need is to go ahead and set this to 1. Okay, and if you're wondering why I'm setting that to 1 simply means true. And these are Boolean values. Okay, but you can just go ahead and set that to 1 right there. Okay, it has 2 Boolean values. One means true and 0 means false. Okay, that's just basically what that is right there. So we basically set that particular method, which is a post method within coil, to take effect. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to need now is to go ahead and code our post fields. And to do that, let me just put a comment right here and say encode the post fields. And this post field, in case you forgot, I'm talking about this particular field. Okay, this field, all of these things that we have created here right now, is what we want to set now. So we're going to need, basically going to need this particular variable. So let me just copy that and let's move on. So down here, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to need coil ups. I think it is faster to always copy this, so I'm going to copy that, paste that right here, and then alright. So and then the next thing that we're going to need right now is to go ahead and then modify this. Of course, we need ch, the first thing, and we're going to change this. Instead of a post alone, this is just going to be just a post fields. Okay, so I'm going to just attach fields to it. Remember this is post fields. Alright, post fields. Then we're going to need a comma, and we're not going to need this one right now. Rather, what we're going to need now is to go ahead and we're going to need a function that we're going to use to kind of encode the data that we want to send. So that function is going to be JSON underscore encode, just to put everything as an array. So this is going to be JSON underscore encode. Okay, and that's really a function, so I'm going to put it in this way. And the first parameter that we're going to need right there is going to be that the post data, which is the variable that we really created. So this is going to be called the post data, like that. Alright, let's go ahead and make this particular post now to return data instead of just echoing the data. So I'm going to just put a comment right here and just say something like let's say make it return data. And to do that is really very simple. I'm going to go ahead and paste what I just copied earlier, and what I need, the constant that I need right now is going to be called colopt underscore return transfer. So I'm going to change this one to return transfer. Okay, this is going to be what? Return transfer. This is colopt underscore return transfer, and I misspelled the transfer. That should be a right here. Okay, this is what? Transfer. And the next thing that I need right there is going to be called that should be true, and I should have also left it at 1. It will still work, but let's just leave that at true. So the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and set a waiting period or a waiting time as it tries to connect. And to do that, I'm going to just do that down here. Let's just say set the waiting timeout. Let's just go ahead and set the waiting timeout right here. And to do that is also very simple. So what I'm going to do right now, let me paste what I just copied earlier, and we're going to need colopt, of course, but the next thing that we're going to need right now is what we'll call connect timeout. So I'm going to go ahead and down, instead of this colopt pulse, we're going to call this connect timeout, like that. Okay, this is colopt underscore connect timeout. Alright, so that's just what we need right there, and we're going to go ahead and set this to, of course, before I go ahead, 0 means wait to infinity, but if you set it to 200, that means it's going to wait for 200 seconds before timing out, in case of if it's having any problem trying to connect. Okay, and this is almost the same thing with the next thing that I'm going to do right now. And let me just copy this and then paste it down here. And instead of this time around, instead of just say connect timeout, I'm going to just say connect, because some server don't really understand connect timeout. So I'm just going to say timeout, just like that, and then I'm going to still set it to be equal to 200 right there. Okay, so the next thing that I would like to do now is to go ahead and set the headers. So I'm going to do the headers down here. So let me put a comment here and say set the headers, and this is going to be coming from the endpoint. Alright, to set the headers, the first thing that we need to do right now, we need to log into our dashboard. We need to log into our dashboard so that we can get the criteria that we need, or the details that we need to set the headers. But before we do that, let's go ahead and then let's paste what we just copied before right now. And the first thing that we're going to need now is that let's just go ahead and configure this page. So this is not going to be connect timeout. This is going to be called a HTTP header, like that. This is going to be HTTP header, and the next parameter that I'm going to need right now is not going to be this 200. Rather, I'm going to just need an array right here. So I'm going to create an array, and the array is going to be in this form. So open this up, and remember that this is now two brackets. Okay, so I'm going to, within this place right now, the first thing that I will need is going to be what is it called, my authorization bearer. That's the first thing that I'm going to need right now. So I'm going to just type authorization, and to get the authorization I'm going to put a colon here and just say bearer. And then for me to grab the bearer right now, I need to go to what is it called, my dashboard, just like I mentioned earlier. So let's go back to our browser and log into our dashboard right now. Alright, so if you are logged into your dashboard right now, what you need to just do is to go to this left hand side of the screen. If you scroll down, I think to get your authorization bearer, you just need to click on this setting. But before we do that, I want you to understand that right now I'm on a test mode with this application. That's why it says you are currently on a test mode, and that is because I'm still testing, and that should be the mode that you should be in right now if you are still testing your application. Once you are done writing, or testing the application, you can go to live mode from here. Okay, but it should just be on the test mode because I'm going to make use of the testing the test mode data right now. So but for the meantime, what you need to just do now is to go to setting. Just be sure that we're on a test mode. If you have this information up here, that means you're on the test mode. Okay, and so let's go to the setting. Alright, if the settings page open, what you need right now is to just go ahead and click on API. Alright, so if you are on the API section of your website right now, your API right now, what you need to do right now is to go ahead and copy this particular key, which is called the secret key. Okay, this is your test secret key that you will need to do the testing right now. And because we are using a server-side programming language, we are going to have to use this secret. But if you are using something like a JavaScript, you should go ahead and copy this first one that says a public key. Okay, but for now, what we are going to be needing is going to be this particular secret key, which is for the server-side programming. And if you were on a live mode, these keys will change. Okay, if you're on a live mode, this will not be the same thing. Okay, so we'll just copy that. You have to copy your own, not my own, because if you use my own, that means that all the testing that you're going to be doing will just be coming into my own API or to my own emails, and that wouldn't be something that I will allow. So go ahead and make use of your own API if you want to experience all the things within the integration. So I'll copy this right now and go back to my development environment, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that right here. So let's go ahead and paste that right there, and then I'm going to go ahead and introduce a comma here. So the next thing that I need to set right now is to go ahead and set the content type. So I'm going to just say content dash type, and that is going to be, we are going to go ahead and set that to application /JSON, and I'm going to still introduce a comma right here. And the last thing that I'm going to set within this part is going to be the cache. So I'm going to just say cache dash control, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to no cache. And that's just basically the only thing I need to set right there. So the next thing that I need to do now is to go ahead and execute the coil session. So to do that, let me just put a comment right here and say execute the coil session. And to execute that is really very simple. I'm going to put that in a variable. So the variable that I'm going to use now, let's just say that this is a request. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to this particular function, which is called the cURL underscore exec, like that. And of course it's a function, so we're going to put a parenthesis right there, and it's going to need one parameter. So in this case it's going to be the coil handler. So we're going to go ahead and pass that in right there, and then we'll move on. So the next thing that we're going to do right now is to go ahead and then a kind of maybe to test this application right now. So we could go to if we want to see, really want to see what is going to happen, what we're going to do right now. Alright, so to test this application, the first thing that I want to do right now is to go ahead and convert it to something like an object, and to do that is really very simple. Let me create let's go ahead and create a variable right here that we're going to just call the results. So let's call this result, and we're going to go ahead and set the result to be equal to JSON underscore, this time around not decode, it's going to just, it's not encode but decode rather. So this is going to be encoded, and what I want to encode right now, everything that is coming back from coil is saved in this request. So I'm going to put that right here, and with that we've really converted that to a kind of object like kind of stuff like that. And if we want to see the result of that, we can use a var dump to see it. So if we do something like let's say var underscore dump, and we go ahead and then pass in that particular variable that we call a result into this place, and if we save that right now and we try to access that within our browser, we're going to notice that we're going to have something displayed to us. So let's just go ahead and try that right now. So let's refresh this page and let's fill this form. Let's say something like a testing Jenny as a name, and we're going to just do testing let's say testing at test.com, and for the phone number let's make up one for the person. So, and then the next thing that we need, let's say we're going to pay 100 naira, and if we click on donate, we should have an error. I believe we should have an error, and we have null right here, and I know the reason why we have that as null. So you see, this particular coil that we're working on right now, or Flutter Wave, requires that you should have a HTTPS. You should have the testing of this particular application over a HTTPS. Okay, that's a secure protocol. But because we are working with our local drive, we don't have what we call certificate, SSL certificate is stored in our system, but that is why it is really not allowing us to do that. You can install an SSL certificate locally to your browser if you want, but I figured out how to do this without having to install that, and that is just by including just a single line of code, and that is going to help you do that. So let's go back to the development environment, and if we scroll up to right underneath where we initialized our coil, that is right here, we can go ahead and then turn off the SSL, the compulsory SSL certificate. So let me just put a comment right here and say turn off SSL checking. And to really turn that off, you can just put that right here. So this is going to be cURL underscore setups, and within this place, the first parameter that we're going to need, of course, is going to be the ch. So this is going to be ch, comma, and the next one that we're going to need is going to be the colored. So this is going to be colored underscore, and this is going to be it's going to be ssl underscore verify peer, like that. So that's going to be the constant that we're going to need, and we can go ahead and turn this to 0, okay, because we don't want that to be on. Okay, so we'll go ahead and then turn that to 0. If you want it to be on, you can go ahead and put 1 right there, but you don't have to do that since you don't want to force over to HTTPS. Okay, so that is just what that is. I'm just turning off the compulsory SSL so that it can allow us to do all the testing and development that we can do within this particular local drive. Okay, and if you upload this to the internet, you are going to use this live, you better come to this place and turn this to, just turn it to on, put 1 right here, or you can completely remove this code away from your code. If you remove it, by default it should force over to HTTPS. Okay, but now that we are just developing locally, it's necessary that we do this if we don't have a local SSL certificate installed to our browser. So let's save this right now, and if we go back to our browser and let's refresh this page again, and let us fill this form. Let's just go ahead and fill it with any data. So let's say this, and then any amount, and if we go ahead and click on donate, if everything goes through, we should return, and congratulations, you see it returns something to us. Okay, so it returns something. So it says the status is set to success, and the message says hosted link. And yeah, the next thing is within this object we do have a link right here, and the link is this. Okay, so this means that the payment page has been automatically generated right now. So one can really make payment now for this particular data. If you copy this and go to your browser, let's say we'll go to a new browser right now, and then we'll put that within the browser. So I'm going to paste that link that I just copied, and if I open this link right now, you're going to see that it's going to generate a payment page for that particular email and that amount that we typed in. Alright, so as you can see, it's really generated that. This is the amount that we typed in there, and as you can see, everything that we typed before now are just showing up, and this is the email that we selected as we were filling just the form right now. So you can really make payment with this particular link, that link that we just copied. I'm talking about this link right here. Okay, so and that's the link that your customers will be automatically be taken to. You're gonna, and this is really the link that your customers are going to be following to make payment to you. Okay, but you see the way that we copied it and pasted it on that tab, you are never going to allow your customers to be doing that. In fact, you're going to have to create the code in such a way that it will automatically redirect them to that page, and then they can make payment and then go their way. So let me just close this out right now. I'm going to close this out, and if we go back to our development environment right now, let's go back to our development environment. Before I do something like a redress right now, notice that this is within data, and if you pick this data right now, the next thing that you could pick will be the link. So if you are navigating to this place right now, we're going to have to go through this place that says data. Okay, after the data you can now pick the link. But if you want to access every other object here like the status, you can go ahead and then pick them without going through the data and even the message. Okay, so let's go back to our development environment, and if we scroll down, so if we scroll down right now to this place, we do not really need this again, so I'm going to go ahead and then comment this out. Okay. Alright, so what we need right now is, instead of dumping this right now, we can go ahead and then redirect to that particular link. And to redirect to that particular link now is really very simple. So what we're going to do right now is to use the header redirect function. So I'm going to just say header, and this is going to be, I'm going to just say location, and of course, first of all, what we're going to do right now is that we're going to concatenate onto this particular variable called result, this one that we have right here. So I'm going to just say result, and after result we need to go through the data, and after the data, the next thing that we need to access right now will not be to access that particular link. Okay, so that will be the next thing that we need to access right now. So with this line of code alone, what's going to happen is that it's going to automatically always redirect you to the payment page, to redirect the customers to the payment page before anything. But before I do that right now, I would like to close the coil session here. I don't want the coil session to always be open, so to close the coil session, we can just, let me put a comment here and say close right here. So I'm going to just say cURL underscore close, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the ch variable right here. That's the coil handler, and we can terminate this line immediately. Okay, so let's save this page, and if we go back to our browser right now and refresh, and if we fill this form this time around, let's say testing, let's say testing 2, and we're going to have a testing 2 at test.com. And then on the next one, we're going to just make up a phone number real quick, and then for the amount, we're going to make up an amount, or just let's say we pay 900. And if you click on donate right now, let's hope that that's going to automatically take us to the payment page. And congratulations, as you can see, that takes us to the payment page. And that's it, automatically takes us to the payment page. Okay, so we don't have to copy and paste the link anymore. So what do we do right now? If you want to make payment, you can. So let's make use of the testing data to make the payment, and after that we'll see where we will land. So I'm going to make use of let's say we'll make use of this one. Copy this, and on the payment page I'm going to paste that right here. And for the validity, this is just 0932, and for the CVV it was 564. Then I'll click on pay 900, and then the next thing is to go ahead and click on proceed, and that's going to open up another tab where we'll have to put our OTP. So we'll just put 125 and click on submit, and if that payment goes through, it's going to submit, and it's going to try to go to that page that we call verify.php, and it is going to append the status of the payment. In this case, this is successful, and the text web that it has been generated automatically, and even the transaction ID will be put on the URL. These are the 2 things or the 3 things that you can use to verify your payment. Okay, and if you don't know when we created this page, I'm going to just show you that right now. We created it when we were creating all other files. So that is this is the page that just automatically opened right now. In fact, if you go to that page now, and if you do something like let's say we'll go ahead and do, let's say if we go ahead and do something like let's say H1 right here, or H2, and we say something like verified, like that, and we'll close the H2 right here. If we save this page right now and we'll refresh, we should have verified right there. You see the word, we have the word verified within this page. So this is the place where we're going to write all the code for verification, and we're going to have to do that right away. So let's take away this, and then we'll move on to that part of the development. Alright, so to really do the verification right now, let me throw in my PHP tag here and just close out my PHP tag. And then within this place, the first thing that I would like to do now is to go ahead and grab those things that we have on the URL. So I'm going to do that right now, and first of all let me grab this particular one, this transaction ID. So if we go back to our development environment, and I'm going to use if statement for this, I'm going to just say if is set, and this is going to be $_. This time around is going to be called gate, because it's going to be a gate super global. We're fetching that from the URL, so we need to use gate. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in that particular thing that is on the URL. Okay, so I'm going to pick the first one, and basically I'm still going to need like 2 more things to pick. Okay, or just 1 more thing. So I'm going to just say, to combine that, I'm going to just put an and right here, and I'm going to just say, let me copy this. I'll copy this right now and paste it right here, and is set $_. What's the next thing that I would like to pick from that place? That should be the status. Let me check that to be sure. And if you look at it, I'm going to pick this status right now. So if I go back to my development environment, I'm going to need the status to be picked instead of this. Okay, so within this place, the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to throw in my curly braces, and I'm going to first of all get that transaction ID from the URL. And to get it from the URL is really very simple. So I'm going to just put that in a variable and say something like trans_ID, and that is going to be I'm going to use and I'm going to use my security function again, which is HTML special chars. And within this place, I'm going to go ahead and say $_gate. And what do I really need within this square bracket what I want to get right now will be that same thing, which is called the transaction ID. This one, I want to pick that right there and go ahead and paste it right here. Okay, so that's what I need right now, and we can go ahead and then terminate this particular line, and we can also copy this. So I can copy this right now or paste it so that I can use it to get the status. So within this place right now, let me go ahead and then say something like trans status. So let's change this from trans ID to trans status, like that. And then what I'm gonna need here is gonna be status. So I'm gonna just type status right there. And if we also need maybe something like the trans ref, we can also do that. First, let's go ahead and do that right here. So I'm going to just say something like a trans ref. So I'm going to just say something like a trans ref, and we're going to go ahead and then put that right here. So the trans ref is really called I don't know what that was called on the URL. So that was called a trans ref. So I'm going to copy that and go ahead and paste it right here. But you know that within this place, when we're fetching or setting this particular variables, we did not really set that up here, so we still need to extend this. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy this right now. So I'll copy this right now and paste it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to, this is going to be tx_ref. I believe that is what it was called. So tx_ref. So that's the third one. So that means that we're not going to receive any error on this particular line right now. Okay, so we have that created. Alright, so we have those things as variables right now. So down here, let's now start our verification right now. So I'm going to just say verify endpoint. And before we write the code for the verification or for the endpoint right here, I just want us to still go to what is it called, the documentation for the verification page, so that we can move together. So if we go back to this place where we were before, and if you scroll down to this page, you see that the next step that we are supposed to perform right now is for the verification. Okay, so if you click on transaction verification, that should take you to the documentation right now. And if you read this place very well, you see that you can make use of the reference, the verified the transaction reference, and you can also make use of the status for the verification. You can check the currency and some other things that you can do. So it just basically depends on whatever you want to do. Okay, so in my own case, I'm going to just make use of the status and then the the transaction ID for my verification. But you should go ahead and then do other ones that you may like to do. Okay, so the first thing that I need right now is to get the endpoint URL. Alright, so that is just that. And then for what we need right now, this is just the coil. If you want to check the PHP version of this, you can also click on this and you see how that looks. You can copy this code and use it, modify it for your verification. Okay, but I'm not just going to copy their code. What I'm going to do is to write it myself. So I'm going to copy the URL first. This is the URL that leads to that particular endpoint. So this is the verification endpoint. I'm going to copy this right now, and if I go back to my development environment, I'm going to go ahead and then paste it right here. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and put it in the variable. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and then paste what I just copied right here. Alright, so this just leads to the endpoint, and what is required here right now is that this is the ID, the transaction ID, which we've already gotten from this place. So you need to fill up this place right now with the transaction ID. You can manually put that just like they have it right here, but that is not going to help you because you're not going to always be there to manually verify people's payments. So in that case, what we're going to do is to automatically fill in the variable right here. Since we are grabbing it from the URL, we can automatically place it right here. And to do that, I'm going to just go ahead and let me delete this and put a quotation right here. double quotation of course, and I'm going to just put a dot here, and I'm basically just trying to concatenate onto this variable called transaction array, transaction ID. So I'm going to paste that right here and also put a dot right here to concatenate onto the next one. I think we really do not need spaces around, so let's just leave it at this. So but this is going to be a variable, so make sure that this is a variable. Okay, so this is just the variable. I'm just concatenating onto that. Alright, we'll move on, and then alright, so I just basically concatenated onto this particular variable. That's what I have done right here. Okay, so just make sure that your own is like that. So that's going to automatically be picking whatever that is in the URL from here and be placing it here as we perform the verification. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do right now is to now go ahead and write the code for the coil. And to do that, I'm going to first of all, just like we did earlier, let's just go ahead and then create our coil session. So I'm going to just put a comment right here and say create cURL session. And to do that is very, very simple. I'm going to just put it in a variable. This time around, let's just call that cURL, which is coil, and we're going to go ahead and then put it in this function called the cURL underscore init, and that line alone will initiate our coil for us. Okay, our coil session. And the next thing that we need right now is to go ahead and turn off the compulsory SSL. So we say something like turn off SSL checker, something like that. And to do that, we're going to just have to do that using our coil setup. So this is going to be cURL. This is going to be cURL underscore setup. And within this place, the first parameter that we're going to need right now will be the coil that we have right up there. So this is going to be a cURL, comma, and the next thing that we're going to need now is going to be cURL, that's called underscore SSL underscore verify peer, like that. And we're going to just go ahead and put a 0 right here to turn that off. And then the next line, I'm going to just go ahead and copy this because we're going to need it a couple more times. So the next thing that we're going to do right now is to go ahead and then configure the cURL session that is based on the type of request that we want. So let's say decide the request that you want, and to do that is very, very simple. Let me paste this right here, and what am I going to do right now? I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be coil, and this is going to be call up underscore return transfer. So this is going to be return transfer, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to true. So this is not just going to be 0 this time around. 0 means false. I'm going to set that to true. And next thing that I need right now is to decide whether this is a GET request or if this is a POST request. And to do that, let me paste this right here, and I'm going to do that to really decide that it is a GET request that we are trying to do. So what we're going to do right now, let me take away this verify peer, and what I really need to do right here is just say custom request, and I'm going to go ahead and set the custom request right now to, I'm going to set it to GET. So I'm going to just type GET like that. So with this line of code, or these two lines of code, I've really told the script that this is going to be a GET request that they're going to perform right here. If it was supposed to be put, I'll go ahead and put here, okay? But this is a GET request, so I have to put GET right there. And remember what I typed, this is just call up underscore custom request, okay? So that's just what I have right there. Alright, then on the next line, what we're going to do is to go ahead and let's go ahead and then set the API keys, okay? To set the API headers, I'm going to just put a comment right here, say set the API header Alright, to set the API headers, the thing that I want to do right now, of course, is still going to be within this coil setups, and to really do the rest of the settings, this is going to be called a callout underscore HTTP header. This is going to be HTTP header, and I'm going to introduce a comma right here. And the next thing that I'm going to need right now is to still create an array, which I can use square brackets. I can type like this if I want, but I think the much faster way to do this. But I think that the much faster way to do this is to go ahead and let's just include a square bracket. This still means an array. Okay, so within this place, this is where I'm going to go ahead and set my configurations right now for the header. So the first thing that I'm going to need is going to be the authorization. So I'm going to just type authorization, and that's going to be, I'm going to just say bearer, and I'm going to go ahead and copy the authorization key that we put in the other file and place it right there instead of going back to my dashboard. So I'm going to just copy this and go back to verify.php. I'm going to paste that right there. So this is my authorization key. So you should use your old, remember. And next thing is to go ahead and then put a comma right there, and we're going to go ahead and then set our content type. So I'm going to set my content type right now. This is going to be content type, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to let's say application /JSON, like that. And that is just what I want to set for that part. So the next thing that I would like to do right now is to go ahead and then execute my coil, and to do that I'm going to do it outside of this particular array or function. So let's say we're going to say run cURL, and to run the cURL we can go ahead and then put that this time around, let's just put that in a variable. So this is going to be called run, and we can just say cURL underscore, it's going to be underscore exec, like that. And of course we're going to need our cURL right here, which is a variable that we've created before now. So it's going to be $cURL right there, and that is just that. So the next thing that we need now is to basically check for an error, if we ever had an error right here. So let's just say check for errors, and if we have even any errors, we're going to have to put that somewhere. So I'm going to just start the checking right now. Let me scroll up so that you guys can see everything. Alright, so to check for error, the first thing that I would like to do right now is to create a variable that will hold the error. So this is going to be error, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to cURL underscore error. And of course we're going to need what is it called, we're going to need the coil handler. So we're going to just say $cURL, which is a variable we have above. And I want to use if statement now to check for if this particular error is really set. So I'm going to just say if error, what do you want to do? You can do a couple of things right here, but I'm just going to just use a die function and say something like let's say cURL returned some errors, and we can concatenate into that, and I'm going to just right there put that error variable that we have above. That way anytime we get an error, this message will show up, and then to tell us really what the error is, as that is getting put into this place. Whatever error that the coil returns will be saved here. Alright, so we terminate this line, and then that is just that. So the next thing that we need to do now is to go ahead and convert this into JSON, because everything that we have right here is just an array right now. So if we scroll down to this place, before we, not really within this place, I need to get out of this square bracket. And the first thing that I would like to do right now is to, first of all, let us go ahead and then var dump, or I'll print out the array. that is alright. So the next thing I would like to do right now is to go ahead and kind of print out whatever that is coming back to us from Flutterwave. So I'm going to just say echo, and this time around I'm going to just use a pre-tag. I think that makes things a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to concatenate onto the variable that we call run, and concatenate onto, so we're going to concatenate onto PRE right here. And yeah, that's that. So we're going to just, let's go ahead and run this code right now. So if we go back to the web page, that's really where we tested our application. We can refresh this page to see if we don't have any error. We should have something printed out on the screen for us, and we have an error. It says undefined constant call-out underscore custom request, and as you can see, I think we misspelled custom request right there. So we need to take away this E that is here right now. So if we go back, and that's on line 19, as you can see. So if we go back right now and go to line 19, so we're going to have to take away E right here. So this should be custom request. Let's save that and let's try again. So let's refresh this page, and they say that the coil returns, they say coil returns some errors, no URL set. So we did not set the URL. Why is that? Let's check. Alright, I think let's go back to our development environment. There's quite a couple ways that we can really set that particular URL, but I think that a better and a cleaner way to do it is to go ahead and pass in this URL into this coil handler. So what I'm going to do now is to copy this variable and paste it right here, and if I save and go back to my browser to refresh again, I believe that that problem will be solved by now. And congratulations, that was solved. So we are now returning something from Flutterwave. It says the status is set to success, and the message. Alright, so basically everything about that payment is just showing up. So this is the message, and within this data array we have the ID, we have the text reference, we have basically everything. This is the amount, this is the currency, this is the charged amount, and what about the status within this particular data is successful. And we can also check the customer array. So the customer array right here, we have the name to be testing2, that is what we typed, and the phone number is right here. Then the email testing2 at test.com, and just basically right about everything that we need will be listed within this page. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do right now is see a way that we can fetch a few of these and then use it to verify the payment. Okay, and with just as it is right now, it has some level of a verification. For instance, if this was not correct, let's change this from 0 to something like 8, and we'll try to access this page. We are really going to have some issues. Okay, so you see we'll get an error. Status is now set to error, and it says that no transaction was found for this particular ID. So but once you change it back to 0, I think it was 0, and then you open that, that's basically going to open up that particular payment again. You see that? So that is just how that works. So let's perform some additional configurations or verifications for this. Alright, so let's go ahead and then comment out this. I really do not need this right now, and the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and fetch some of those things. Before I do that, I like to convert whatever that is within this form. I'm going to have to convert that to JSON object, and to do that, let me just say convert to JSON obj for objects. And to do that, I'm going to just go ahead and put that in a variable called results. So this is going to be result, and to convert that to JSON, just like I said, JSON object, you are going to have to just use this function called JSON decode, and within this page you go ahead and pass in that variable called run. So I'm going to just pass in run right here, and then I'll move on to the next line. So what I want to do right now is that with the help of these, I can fetch all of the data as objects right now. So the first thing that I would like to fetch right now is going to be the status. So I'm going to just say status, and this is going to be equal to, of course, I'm going to just say results. And just like we have converted it to object, that means we can now use arrow to access them. So we can just say arrow like that, and we're going to just first of all go to data like this, and after data we can now go ahead and fetch the status like that. And if you don't understand why I'm doing this right now, and before I really even show you that, remember that this status that I'm fetching now is the one that is within data, not the one that is outside. Let's go back to the browser and take a look at that. Okay, so it's not this status that I'm fetching right now. The status of this one is set to success. Okay, but the one I'm fetching is the one that is within data. So I'm trying to fetch a status that is here, and this is this. That's going to be successful. That's the one I just fetched, not this one. If I want to fetch this one, I can just, what I need to do, I don't need to include this data right here. So I can just take away this part like this, and then I will get that particular. In fact, if you want to see it, it's really very simple. What we can do right now, let's go ahead and echo this. So if I save this line and just say echo, go back to my web page, if I refresh, I should be able to see that somewhere. You see that we have success right there. But if I go ahead and change if I go ahead and let's say we include data right here. So what we have now is a result, data, then status. If I save that, we're going to see that it will be successful now that we're going to get instead of success. You can see that, you grab how we are just really fetching that. Okay, alright, so I'm going to go back right now. The other things that I need now is going to be, let me just remove this echo. I don't need to be echoing them. So the other thing that I'm going to need right now is to go ahead and fetch the message. So if I say message, I'm going to go ahead and set that to be equal to result, and this is going to be set to the message that is outside. So I'm just going to say message, terminate that line. And the other thing that I need right now is going to be the ID, the transaction ID. So I'm going to just say ID right here, and that is going to be equal to result, and that's going to be within the data, and this is going to be ID like that. And let me also uncomment this so that I will show you where I'm really getting all these things from. Okay, I believe you already know, but I think it's necessary to still show you. So you see, I just got this particular ID right now. So once you hit data, you can hit ID, and then it will get this for you. Okay, so this one doesn't need to be within the data. This is outside of the data array. That's why I just said message, and I don't have to fetch this one because I really do not need it right now. Alright, so let's go back and fetch some other things that we need. And I fetched the ID, so let's fetch the reference. So I'm going to just say reference, and the reference is going to be, I'm going to copy that. So to get a reference right now, this is data, and I can just get that from tx underscore ref like that. And then the next thing that I need right now is going to be the amount. So let me get the amount right now, and to get the amount, I'm going to get that from this place. So this is going to be amount, terminate that line. And the next thing that I need right now is going to be charged amount if I really need it. So let me just say charged amount, charged underscore amount, and that is going to be equal to this. And I'm going to just say amount charged or charged amount. And then the next thing that I need right now is going to be the full name. And to get the full name, I just create a variable and say full. And to get that, I'm going to just say first of all, it's going to be within the data. Let's go back to that browser again. So this is data, but within data we still have another object or array that is called the customer. So after I access data, I'm going to have to access customer before I go ahead and pick whatever is inside of customers. Alright, so to get that name right now, this is going to be, so I'm going to just say customer right there, and now I'm going to go ahead and set that to name to get the full name. And for the phone number or email, I want to copy this and paste it right here. So this is going to be, so let's go ahead and fetch the email first and go ahead and change this to email. And the next one that we're going to need is going to be the phone number, I believe. So I'm going to change this to phone. So let's just call this phone. And for phone, we're going to have to get it from here. So phone is just called, so this is going to just be called a phone underscore number, like that, and that's just basically all we need right now. Okay, so I fetched all of these and we have them right here. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do right now is to now verify. Alright, so I basically have everything that I need to fetch. I have them in place right now. The next thing that I would like to do is to check for the authenticity of this payment. If the person really paid, I need to put some additional checking right now, and I'm going to make use of the status and then the transaction ID. And to do that, I'm going to do it right down here, but just know that I'm going to make use of this status that we have right here now, and that one that we have up here, which is coming from the URL. What is it? This one, this particular status. And I'm also going to make use of the transaction ID, this one right now, which is on the URL, and that one that is within the data. Okay, this is the one that I'm talking about right now. So that's basically the two things that I'm going to make use of. So let me do that down here, and to do it I'm going to have to use if statements. So I'm going to just say if status if status is not equal to trans status, like this, what do you want to do? So I want to compare it with something else right now. So this is basically, you can just say, you can just put your curly braces within this place and then go on. But since I still want to check for more thing, and I'm going to use AND operator right there, so I'm going to just put another bracket right there, and then that will enable me put an AND right here and perform my second checking. So to do that now, not really AND, I'm going to use OR. Okay, so I'm going to use OR. So this is going to be OR. I'll open another bracket, and then I'm going to go ahead and test for the trans ID right now. So I'm going to just say trans ID is not equal to the ID, the one that we have within this place, within the data, talking about this one. So if any of these two conditions fail, what do you want to do? That will be the next thing. What do you want to do? What I want to do right now, within this place, you can do a couple of things, but what I'm going to just do is to just redirect to the home page. I think that is what I'm going to just do. So I'm going to just say header and location, and this is going to be index.php, and you can go ahead and terminate this line of code, and we can just say exit right here, and that is just that. So we can basically put an else part within this place to check for some other things, or to just give the value. So we can just say else, and something will have to happen within this else. So let's just say something like let's say something like a give value. Okay, so we are going to have to give value within this place. That's just basically what we are going to do. But if this requirement was not met, we redirect to the home page. Else, if it was met, you give value within this place. That's just basically what that is talking about right there. So let me scroll down to do some other things that we can do right now. So the next thing that I would like us to do now is to go ahead. First of all, we can go ahead and close our coil right here, which we have not done before. So say cURL underscore close, and to close the coil, we can just go ahead and pass in that variable that contains coil, which is in this case this is going to be cURL right here. And then the last thing that I would like to do within this PHP part right now is that this first if statement that we have up here, we need to add an else part to it. If you look at this place, we say if is set transaction ID and this one and also this one. Okay, if all of these things are set, we went ahead and saved all of these things into their respective variables. But in a situation where they were not set, what do we want to happen? So instead of opening the page, we need to put an else part down for this particular one. So if these things were not found in the URL, what is the next thing that we want to do? So to do that, we need to put an else part down here. So I'm going to just say else like that, and very simple. I'm going to just go ahead and then redirect again. So I'm going to copy this to redirect code and put it right here, just right there. Okay, so that's just basically what it is right now. And the next thing that I would like to do right now is to go ahead and then I kind of output all of these in HTML. So I'm going to do that outside of this place. So I'm going to get HTML code right now. Let me go to our home page and copy that. So I'm going to copy these right now. And if I go back to the verify page, I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And I will go ahead and take away this form. We really do not need this form in this page, so I'll take that away. So we can go ahead and change this Rave integration. You can just say Rave verification page. Okay, and within this place, what we're going to do right now is to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and attach an additional class right here, which is I'm going to call verify, and in this case this is just going to be called verify, which I'm going to copy the CSS and paste very soon. So the next thing that I want to do right here is to create a table to display those content that we already have, or those the verified data. And let's just go ahead and create a table right here. Let's close the table, and within this place the first thing that we're going to need now, let's create the the table headers, and the first thing that we'll need will be the full name. That will be the first thing that we'll need, and I'm going to go ahead and close that th right there, and I'm going to copy that and paste a couple more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Okay, so we're going to change that. So the second one is going to be phone number. So this is going to be called the phone. So this is going to be called the phone number. And the next one is going to be the email. This is going to be called email. The next one is going to be the transaction status. And the next one is going to be the reference. It's going to be reference. And then the next one is going to be transaction ID, and finally we're going to need an amount. This is going to be amount, and I think we also need the charged amount. We really do not need that, but let's just go ahead and include it since I have it in the original file that I created, or original app that I created. So this is going to be called this is going to be called a charged amount. Okay, so that's just it for now, and this should be the table row, and I made that mistake. So this is going to be TR, and let's go ahead and close the TR right here. So this is going to be TR, and I will go ahead and create another TR right now, then close the TR right here, and within this place, this is where we're going to be creating the table data. So we need to create our TDs right here, and the first thing that we need within our TD is to go ahead and output the full name. So this is going to be I'm going to throw in my PHP tag right there, and I'm going to just go ahead and say echo $_ full name, which is this particular variable right here. You can terminate that and close the TD like that. And if you don't know where I just got this table data from, the full name from, it's just the variables that we created earlier before now. So these are the things that I want to put right now on that table. Okay, so I just got that from there. Alright, so I have the full name printed out right there, and let me copy this and paste it a couple more times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think that's all we need for now. So after full name, we're going to need a phone number. So this is going to be phone number like that, and after phone number, we're going to need an email. So this is going to be email right there, and after an email, we're going to need a transaction ID. So this is going to be the transaction status, not ID. So this is going to be status. So this is going to be so I want to go ahead and put status right here, and after status, we're going to need the reference. So we have reference right here, and after reference, we're going to have to need the ID. That's the transaction ID. Someone just put ID right there, and after the ID, we're going to need an amount. So this is going to be an amount, and finally we're going to need charged amount, I believe. So I'm copying this right now, paste it, and change that from amount to charged amount. Charged _ amount. Go ahead and save that, and let's give that a shot. And before we give that a shot, I think it is necessary to copy out the CSS for this verify right here. So let me go ahead and copy that and paste. Alright, so I got the CSS copied. So if we go to our CSS right now, we'll scroll down to the bottom. Let's go ahead and paste that newly copied CSS here, and that really began from this place, the verify class that I just created, and then this is the style for the table, as simple as ABCD. So let's go ahead and save this, and if we go back to our browser and we'll refresh this page, let's go ahead and refresh this page and see what that page is going to give us. And this is it. So we have a couple of not couple of error, but just one error right here. So we have the phone number is not showing, so we want to find the variable phone number. So let's go and find out. This is on line 90 from verify.php. so it's complaining against this phone number. Okay, if we scroll up to this place where we created the variables for the phone number, okay, we used only phone, so I'm going to copy phone, and let's go back to that place, and instead of phone number, this is just going to be phone. So I'm going to take away number. So if we save this and we go back to our browser and refresh, and as you can see, it now looks just like the original one. Very beautiful. Okay, that's very beautiful. And then we need to take away this, so let me comment out this line of code that outputs those code. So this is found right here, so I'm going to just comment this line out, and that error should be gone by now. Alright, so that is it. Brave verification page. Okay, so that is it for this. And if you really want to, we can test this again if you want. Let me take away this and let's try again. This time around, let's say we fill it with let's say final test, and let's say final test at final.com, and let's pick up a phone number and an amount. Let's pay 200, and let's go ahead and click on donate. Congratulations, and that is moving. So this is the payment page. If we go to our test cards, let me get a test card. Let's take this one for the MasterCard. So I'm going to go back to the application, paste that right there, and the validity is 0932, and for the, what is it called, the CVV, it was 564, I think I remember. So go ahead and click on proceed, and okay, we have an error right here. You see the invalid card number. That means I didn't really copy the card number. So let's go back and get that again, please. I'm sorry about that. So let's get the card number again. Let's copy that, and if we go back to our work or application, paste that right here, and I think other things are just right here. So if I click on pay, that should attempt to pay, and it's going to request for 4-digit card pins, which is found right here, 3310. So this is 3310, and it's going to ask for OTP, which is 125, and if you click on authorize payment, payment has gone through. It's going to redirect to the verification page in a moment. And congratulations, you see that also went through final test, the phone number, the final test email, the transaction successful reference, and the transaction ID, amount and amount charged. And I also say that one can also make use of amount charged and amount charged. So if you want to compare these two things before you give value, you can also do it within the coding, but I don't think I need to do that right now. And if you want to test the authenticity of this, if you, let's say you change this last value from 1 to 2 right now, I want to see what is going to happen. It's going to automatically have to redirect you to the home page. See that was not found within the Flutterwave payment, so it will redirect you. So you can alternatively put an error page in that place where we did the redirecting. So instead of redirecting to the home page, it can redirect to the error page or whatever. And if this one is also not there, it's also going to have to kind of report such an error. Okay, so that's it. I think it's really nice, and if you like this, please give me a thumb up, and if you have any questions, you can just go ahead and then you hit the comment box below to lay your comment, and you can share this video on your social media handles. That's going to really help me a long way in knowing what I'm doing. So I really need you to share this video, like the video, and comment. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have not subscribed before, you need to subscribe to this right now. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.